Hello, friends. Nicholas here with DIVO, TED Talks, Devoted Talks, where we take ancient wisdom and practices through a modern lens and experience to help you and those you love in suffering in yours and their world and all over and everywhere, hitherto and hitherfore. I don't know. I was trying to make it a bit more dramatic. Sorry if you're on YouTube. I just had to wipe the camera. I love my Apple computer. This is not an endorsement, but if Apple wants to pay me because one day people find this, heck yeah, man, I'll take it. Anyway, man, I had a really good discussion with the client just here now. We were talking about stuff. We were talking about relying on frameworks to feel better about life rather than recognizing that if we can create a framework, then we're really just limiting our capabilities within the system. That's not exactly what we took away from it, but it's close. And you know what I really want to hone in on is that there really is no sense of control, and yet there is all the senses of control. But you have to get to the place where it is control or not control, where you can understand that while you do have control, there are greater mechanisms above and beyond you that are operating that may make it seem like you aren't in control, and yet you are in control. You just won't always know exactly what the path of least resistance is for that to come. And yet even that is a framework to try to use as a salve against feeling powerless. See, we live in a world of duality. And so to feel powerless means that there is a whole aspect of being supremely powerful, because you can't have one without the other, because everything is based on qualities and opposites, according to Ayurveda. And this is very true. And, you know, this is just one way of experiencing the universe and the world, but it is our way. And so one of the most functional ways you can, end suffering in your life is to truly not just acknowledge that, but live in alignment with that. Now, there's many, many, many things you could veer off from on that, but what I want the takeaway to be is you are all powerful and powerless all at the same time. And while it may seem futile, because it doesn't seem like it would matter because things are just going to happen the way they happen, that doesn't change the fact that we still set the intention, we still set the direction, we still set where we're heading. And if we don't set the direction, or we set it in a direction with futility, then we are going to get futility. You have to hold it with an open palm. It's like cooking a souffle, as I was telling my client. You don't just approach it lightly, but you really understand that it is a delicate thing, because resistance can have all kinds of impacts on the way it turns out, right? Because in the souffle, if there is resistance, it's going to fall, it's going to not rise, it's going to burn or whatever. I've never cooked a souffle. But how can we say this? So thanks to my client for viewing and experiencing the world this way, because it is helpful to me to find my way through the woods. And the way of it was, I can't control the world, but I can control how I react to it. And I was like, no, and yes, and no. Because there really isn't control over it, and yet there is. And so the example that I used was, all right, when you're driving a car, are you in control? Yes. And I said, okay, now what time when you're driving the car are you no longer in control of the car? And he said it, and I let him right into it. He said I was sneaky, but I wasn't trying to be sneaky. I was just trying to work our way through it. And his answer to, you're always in control of the car until when? When you stop paying attention. Boom. That's it. That is the way of the world. That is the way of life. That is the way of control. Paying attention. Because attention is going to allow you to be in the moment, enraptured, if you will, and then being able to make choices to step through it, right? It's like, There's a song I used to hear called "Walking Through Raindrops," and like people come out dry. And I can't remember the song exactly, but I found it beautiful just because the music was really good, but also because of the message, right? Can you walk through raindrops without getting wet? Life is going to throw you storms, but if you know where to step because you're in the moment or you're choosing where you step in the moment, maybe you can get through it without being impacted by it. There is a way for that to happen, but oftentimes when we resign ourselves to things being out of control, there is a truth, there is a part of the universe that isn't controllable because we're not meant to control it. We do have measures of control at the same time, right? If there is out of control, there has to be control. But what that looks like isn't necessarily making us go exactly where we want to be, but heading in the right direction for the intentions that we're setting is what really is happening. And as long as we can keep a steady control on what we're focusing on, which is what yoga truly is, right? It's meditation so that we can have a one pointed focus so that we can really shed our ideas and beliefs about the universe and, recognize our oneness with it. But that's getting a little bit deep in it. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that there's a million different ways I could frame this for you to understand it, but it only comes from your understanding that the locus from which you operate, if you're not paying attention, will just willy-nilly go places that you have to either be reflexive or reactive to, rather than being able to steer yourself or step through the raindrops so that there isn't as much of an impact, right? It reminds me of this Green Day song that I liked in high school, but it's called Walking Contradiction. And this guy is walking down the street and all this chaos is going on around him, some of which he's causing, and yet it doesn't impact him. And he's just walking along and everything's fine. And it doesn't do a thing to him. If you haven't seen it, look it up. Uh, it's a funny music video, but that's what I think about, right? Chaos could consume us and envelope us or not. But if we rely on being in the moment and our instincts, we really oftentimes can take ourselves in and out of things successfully. Now, I have one example of that. I had a car that I was driving in a very, very torrential downpour, and it was crazy. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't accelerate anymore. I don't know what happened to my vehicle. It had it in gear, but it was really rainy, and I couldn't continue accelerating. I'm on a highway, it's 85, and it's raining so much that I was scared to either slow down or get off the road or what. And something in the back of my mind said, turn it off and then start it while you're moving. Thankfully, I was in a manual, so I could do that. So I pulled it out of gear, turned it off while I'm rolling down the road, and then I turned the engine over again and then threw it in the gear, and I was fine. We even called the manufacturer and stuff. They were very scared because they thought there was something wrong. But I mean, it turned out fine. But in that moment, I didn't know what to do. I just followed my instincts and tried something, and it worked. And it was because I was in the moment. I was breathing, and I just said, I need to find something to do. And I did something, and it worked. And I mean, I don't know what would have happened if it hadn't worked, but that wasn't the outcome. And so I use that oftentimes. Nobody told me what to do. I just figured it out in the moment, but it wasn't figuring it out so much as it was remembering it or discovering it. More discovering it than anything else. And so what I'm here to say to you is that the only times that you are not in control of your car or your vehicle is when you're not paying attention. So how today will you start to pay more attention? And that is the trick to being well and being free.